This is your guy, Tommy Gain here for Tommy Talk. America Sports Show, still. And folks, what a game, what a matchup, what a win for Caitlin Clark. She is her. I think anyone can, who has eyes can see that at this point. She had what I consider to be just an incredible game. 41 points, 9 3-pointers, tied the NCAA tournament record for 3-pointers in a game, made Haley Van Lith look like a chump in comparison, and Caitlin Clark wins the rematch with Angel Reese, what had to be one of the most anticipated women's basketball games ever. What a game. What a game. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed watching that. It felt like the eyes of America were on it. It was the number one trending thing on Twitter was Caitlin Clark, and she put on a show. It felt like at some point she could not miss. Man, oh man, oh man. And she's going to take on the winner of UConn versus USC in the Final Four. Now, can she beat South Carolina, win a national championship? That's the real question. South Carolina, an absolute powerhouse this year. Absolute powerhouse, is going to be favored over anybody that comes in their path. I mean, undefeated on the season. An incredible run for South Carolina. Can they win? Can they do it? We'll see. It was a tough day for Haley Van Lith. She looked very bad. Angel Reese started off really looking really good, and then she tailed off and then ended up fouling out by the end of the game. What a win, what a game. Had to be one of the most watched women's college basketball games ever. Maybe one of the most watched women's basketball games ever in general. And it just might be, overtaken if Iowa can make the championship and plays South Carolina. That could be a hell of a championship game. I am looking forward to it. This was great. The question I think in a lot of people's minds is, can Caitlin Clark... Well, Caitlin Clark, she's definitely going to the WNBA. At least I think so. There are some offers for her right now with the Big Three. I think they're offering her $5 million. And then Barstool said they would offer her $10 million. I've had some people ask the question, at least academically, could Caitlin Clark make it at the NBA level? And, I mean, listen, at the very least, as like a Kyle Korver 3-point specialist, you got to imagine it's not impossible. It's not impossible. It'd be tough. It'd be very difficult. I don't know if she is the best going on the inside. I don't think she could make it coming in on the inside in the NBA by any stretch. However, from the outside, she is otherworldly. So as a 3-point specialist, I don't think it's impossible for her to do some great stuff in the NBA. Will that happen? I doubt it. I doubt that she will. But, it's an interesting thing to posit at the very least. At the very least. For Angel Reese, she may come back next year. She said that she's going to make her decision. If I were her, you know what? I would stick with college for the extra year. I'll tell you why. You get Caitlin Clark out of your hair. You're going to make a lot of money off NIL anyways. So stick around, try to win another title. I think it would be I think for her, she'd kind of get the spotlight to herself, and it would be, she'd do some great things. Moving on to men's basketball, the Final Four is set, and I gotta say, my bracket was absolutely doggy doo-doo. Terrible. Awful. And let me count the ways. My Elite Eight, there was only one team in my Elite Eight that actually made the Elite Eight. And 0 teams for my Final Four that made the Final Four. It was a bloodbath in my bracket. Absolute catastrophe. However, I will give myself this much credit. I put NC State in the Elite Eight, although I didn't have them making the Final Four, and that's where we start. NC State, man, oh man. Shades of 1983. It's hard, if you go back a month ago and say, hey, this NC State team is going to make it all the way to the Final Four, no one would believe you. They'd say Kevin Keats, he is fighting for his job. They had a mediocre season. They're not making it anywhere. And yet, NC State, that game against Duke, in the second half, they put on the burners. And DJ Burns is an absolutely electric presence. We were robbed, absolutely robbed, of a DJ Burns, Eddie Lampkin Sweet 16 game, which would have been amazing. But in any case, DJ Burns, he goes there on the inside, he goes to the hoop, and he is hard to stop. He is a athletic freak. Some people have even said, hey, what if he tried playing offensive line? What if he just tried? He has the size of an offensive lineman, and he has the athleticism. Why not, after the March Madness is over, let him do a pro day? And then, which is crazy. That's not happening. But man, oh man, is he an athletic freak of nature? This NC State team feels like a team of destiny by all indicators. They beat Duke in a game that I think Duke fans were very confident about. And now they take on a Purdue team, which, you're going to take on Zach Edey, who, listen, in modern basketball, we have some athletic, incredibly fun to watch big men at the college level and especially at the pro level. Guys like Wemby, guys like Jokic. These guys are a pleasure to watch, an honor to watch. One of those guys is definitely not Zach Edey. Ugh. Listen, I'm not saying that at the college level he hasn't dominated, but a lot of that has to do with being a hype merchant and grabbing boards like nobody's business because of his height. And also, to give him a little bit of credit, he has an otherworldly ability to set his feet just outside of the paint so to avoid 5-second violations, which makes him impossible to guard. In the paint, he gets fouled like crazy. That's where a bunch of his points come from. He scores 40 points against Tennessee in a game where I thought Tennessee had a good chance at. But, it's going to be tough for Burns defending him there on the inside. Are the refs going to keep giving him that kind of leeway, in this game? I got to imagine they will if they have been all season long. And that could make some serious issues for NC State. Because besides that, I think NC State has a real good shot in this game. And someone said this was very funny. NC State is an 11 seed, which is crazy. This could be another year where Purdue loses to a double-digit seed still in the Final Four. And if I were to predict something, I say they would. Incredible run by NC State. They had to win the ACC tournament to make March Madness in the first place. And then they've gone on such a great run. Happy for the Wolfpack. I want to see him keep going through. But can anybody beat Connecticut? Can anyone beat UConn? Can anybody beat UConn? Because in every single game they've played so far, they've led by at least 30 points. By 30 points. Last game, they were tied with Illinois. Illinois looked like they may keep it close. Would they? No. 30-0 run. 30-0. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. It was absolutely bonkers. Crazy stuff. You gotta be kidding me. I think Bama's going to end up being a sacrificial lamb to Hurley and Connecticut. Dan Hurley, just a hell of a basketball coach. I think probably better than his brother Bobby, and no one saw that coming. I really, my championship was Houston UNC, which ended up coming nowhere near close. If I were to guess what the championships ended up going to be, is probably UConn, NC State, and of course UConn will be the big favorites, and they'll probably win. However, last time NC State made a Final Four, they took on Houston, a highly favored Houston Phi Slamma Jamma in the national title, and ended up winning. So they have a little bit of a history of doing something like this. Obviously, the odds are long, but it seems like the Cardiac Pack, they seem to really thrive in that kind of environment. I think that's fair to say. They seem to thrive. March Madness so far has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Caitlin Clark was saying something about, she was talking about, the women's game right now is getting more attention than the men, and women's March Madness is going to get more attention than men's. I don't think that's true. I think the men's game still has gotten more attention this March overall. However, definitely the most attention I've seen the women's game ever get in March Madness, which is great. That's awesome. I'm very happy about that. But I'm just saying. And then now, she's going to have her shot at greatness. I wouldn't be surprised if it's comparable between a UConn NC State national championship or a UConn Purdue national championship versus a South Carolina Iowa national championship. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a comparable rate. The ratings are not that crazy different between those two, because both of them are going to be huge games. And it's weird also, by the way, NC State and UConn could both be in both the men's and the women's Final Four. That's crazy. And another story we talked about last time, and I want to quick transition, just quick talk about this. Kim Mulkey, the article finally came out that we were talking about, and there was some bad stuff in there, not going to lie, about how she treated players. But overall, I was expecting a heck of a lot worse. I was expecting an absolute hammer to get dropped. And either A, they had more and they took it out because they were expecting some serious legal pushback, or B, this was all just, either or B, Kim Mulkey did something very, very savvy and, softened the blow on herself by preparing people for something crazy. Because if it was just this article without her saying anything, she would probably get a lot more backlash for the stuff she did. But because it was nowhere near as bad as people were expecting it to be, I think things ended up working better in her favor. That's probably how I would read that situation. But yeah, overall, not as bad as it probably could have been for Kim Mulkey, or probably should have been, to be honest with you. Finally, we're going to be talking about the NFL draft real soon. Oh, there's actually two stories I want to get into. Let's start with this. Raji Rice, who is the star receiver for the Chiefs. After everyone left, he's been the main guy for the Chiefs. Apparently, he's cooperating with authorities now, but there was this whole thing in Dallas about him getting in some type of street racing, maybe. There was a speeding Corvette and a Lamborghini, and there was some chain reaction, big crash on a highway around Dallas. Man, oh man, I guess in strictly football terms, Mahomes can do it with anybody at this point, it feels like. So losing Rashee Rice while awful, would not kill him, even though maybe he wouldn't win a championship this year. But beyond that, that doesn't really even matter, to be honest with you, because this, obviously, we haven't seen this kind of thing hit the NFL since Henry Ruggs went to prison. Obviously, I don't know if it's as important as that. No one died because of the crash, which is pretty important. I think he's probably going to pass over. Maybe he might get something. I think he'll probably be fine in the end. We'll see. Things will develop. We'll see. But yeah, it's not. I think it could have been worse for Rice. If someone had gotten seriously hurt or died, it could have been a serious catastrophe for him. But I don't think that's not what's happening here. But still a crazy story. Finally, I want to talk about something that I've been seeing the last week, and it's been this assault on the character of Caleb Williams. Assault on his character. And I get it. People are going to say, I'm simping for Caleb because he's going to be the next quarterback of the Chicago Bears. And to a certain extent, yes. However, I just think this is so unfair. People have been coming after him and talking about how because he was at a game, I think at the USC women's basketball game, they saw him with a pink phone and they thought he had lip gloss on, and people were criticizing him and calling him feminine and stuff like that. And that's dumb. It's been dumb for a while. All these attacks on his character all seem to be things that could be spun as positives if you look at it from a certain perspective. But overall, I think it's just very unfair to Caleb. I think it's 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 very unfair to Caleb But even more so, this guy David Hookstead, who works for Outkick, which is Clay Travis's outfit, his media site, his sports media site, he goes on Twitter and starts talking about how people are saying I'm not allowed to criticize Caleb Williams for not acting like an adult. But my uncle was dropping bombs on the Nazis, and my friends were washing guts out at the scene of Black Hawk Down at his age, and yada, yada, yada. And what? Huh? Bro, what are you talking about? What? What? Let's start with, first of all, I don't think anyone's saying that you're not allowed to criticize Caleb Williams. They're just criticizing the content of your criticisms. That's not that good. They're not saying, they're not saying he's like 15 years old or something, so they can't criticize him. He's in his 20s. He's a man. He can be criticized. It's just the criticisms are very stupid. But beyond that, why are you going around talking about how your uncle and people who aren't you are so brave and hanging that hat? And I guess he's saying he's acting like a child because he's just not, he's has like a pink phone case. What? Huh? What? I mean, we're just getting to these new levels of idiocy with the Caleb Williams saga. And if you don't like him, fine, whatever. You don't like Caleb Williams. That's your prerogative. But like making this hardo, crazy, he's not masculine enough. He's a wussy type thing. It just seems dumb and ignorant. And at the end of the day, I've heard nothing about him being a bad teammate. I've only heard good things about him being a teammate. And it seems like his coaches love him. He's never had any trouble with the law or anything like that. But yet, we have people running around acting like he's like getting arrested and doing like terrible things. Like he's some crazy, insane diva that's just a bad person or a criminal or something. He's not. He's a good guy. For everything I've seen, at least. I haven't seen anything of him being just like a bad person or something. I mean, you get people, these are, when you're 22 years old or whatever, you do dumb things and that happens and stuff. But we haven't seen Caleb do anything that dumb. I mean, yeah, he did that thing with the fingernail painting against Utah. He said, fuck Utah on his fingernails. That people will say that was not the wisest thing to do. And I can understand that. But why are you acting like he's doing like terrible things? Like he's being a bad being a bad guy. I just don't get it. I think it's really unfair to Caleb. Overall, I think it's unfair to Caleb. And again, you can throw this out the window because Tommy's trying to defend his future quarterback. Fine. I get that. I get it. However, I think I make my point. I think he deserves better. And I think that anyone on Twitter acting like they are like the tower masculinity or something are insecure about their masculinity. A guy like Caleb Williams is very secure about his masculinity, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable who aren't very secure. I think that's fair to say as well. I'm just saying. In any case, folks, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe on YouTube. Tommy Gain on YouTube. Please subscribe at Tommy. Subscribe at Tommy SGAHAN on Twitter, on Instagram, on the TikTok. The TikTok.